Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Vuk Jovanović. I'm an investigative reporter. I was by coincidence in Las Vegas, Nevada, when I met Lou Epton, a journalist, and met also FBI Director Ted Gunnison. And through them I met all of American patriots. Also, of course, KETI O'Brien and Mark Phillips. I did this documentary film, which was huge, 4 hours, 4 hour time. At the time, it was about 95, 96, it was the most popular film, because I didn't do any cuts. I showed that film in Justice Department at Rosenbaum, and I insisted that little Kelly Cox, the daughter of KETI O'Brien, that you'll be able to see, should be sent to London for deprogramming process. That's why I have some happy ends, and I hope that this program is enormous. It's the most dangerous game that Satanists are doing with us. They're programming people, they're programming your mind, they're poisoning water, they're poisoning the whole world. And you Americans are the worst victim of everything, and that's I know because I was with Alex Jones, with all American patriots. I'll play also the film about Lou Epton, who was the one who introduced me, and my friend Ted Gunnison from Las Vegas, Nevada. You'll be able to see them, how they look like. And I wish you a good time, and you will see why Roberto De Niro was forbidden by CIA to play the film Presidential Model. And that will give you some idea why it's so dangerous. You will see how they operate, because KETI O'Brien was at the time when Reagan was president, and he was only the puppet. The main figure was a pedophile, a big pedophile, Bush Senior, who is the worst criminal of all, person whose father was dealing with Hitler, and they are the worst enemy of the United States in the world. And we hope that person who I happen to know, Mr. Trump, will win, and I hope if you'll be able to send him this tape, which I'm not able because I'm a little bit limited in Serbia. Please do me a favor and send to his people in New York, wherever they are, send this tape and tell my regards to Vuk Jovanović, and also tell them that American Ambassador Mr. Scott knows where I am and where he can find me. You'll do me a great favor and send this tape to Alex Jones, and Alex Jones will be very happy to have this tape after so long time, and also tell Mr. Trump, and I tried to send him a message as well, that he should meet KETI O'Brien and Mark Phillips and get more information because of the scandals and everything else that's going on in America, and that all America should know about that. So please do my best and do me a favor and send this tape to Mr. Trump. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy my film, and sorry the quality is not that good, but most important is the story.
You just mentioned that you were testifying in front of FBI.
Yes.
What kind of testifying was that we're talking about?
In 1989, I brought forward the diaries of her controller or handler, Alex Houston, because these diaries contained a number of large cash transactions among high-ranking officials, both within the Justice Department, in the entertainment business, as well as some politicians, including...
KETI, you have in front of you a list of the people that you collected after your recollection of everything that happened after you was rescued by Mark Phillips. People that you can say and swear the member of the Rose. Can you give me this list and tell me what people are on that list? And you also having a list of all drug traffickers that you was acquainted with. You met them and you work with them.
Yes, this is a partial list that I've compiled. It was just a matter of listing some names for convenience purposes for people investigating. And I refer to it as a perfect traitors list because these are certainly traitors of our country that are involved in implementing the New World Order under this group that they refer to as the Order of the Rose. And the orders from the Rose were orders from George Bush. That's not to say he was the very top person in this effort, but he certainly was in this, the aspect of it that was going on in our country, Canada, Mexico, and throughout the Caribbean. His one of his primary people that was working under him in the UN capacity was Madeleine Albright, and Madeleine Albright was part of the Order of the Rose that was involved in the Caribbean operations, and even had an office in the Organization of American States office in Washington, D.C.
You visited her. Can you tell me more details how you came in touch with her? And you told me that she also sexually harassed you in that office at the time. Can you tell me approximately the time frame and when it's happened and when you visited, and who brought you to this meeting with her, and what was the purpose of that meeting?
This was in, I believe it was 1985. I have a little more difficulty with exact dates and times because as a programmed multiple, in essence, it was as though it were one long day to me. I was not aware of time, my age, or anything else, but Madeleine Albright was at the White House cocktail party that was being thrown for Brian Mulroney, Prime Minister of Canada, who is also Order of the Rose. And
main purpose for you being there was what?
Was for prostitution to Brian Mulroney at that time. But anytime I was in Washington, D.C., it was usually multi-purposed, as was this particular trip. And after having been prostituted to Brian Mulroney that
Can you explain me the situation in more details? Who brought you there, and what was the room that was used for that reason? Also in White House, or he was guest in White House? He slept in White House?
Yes, he had a room in the White House at that time, and I was brought into a White House cocktail party for the purposes of making contact with Brian Mulroney for prostitution later that evening in his room in the White House.
This room? Can you describe this room?
It was one of the nicer guest quarters that they have in the White House, and it was actually a suite. It wasn't just a bedroom. There was an outside room to it that had a sofa in it and some comfortable furniture. But also in that room, by the time I entered, were 3 other girls, one of which was a very dear friend of mine who remains a dear friend of mine to date. She's a mind-controlled slave of U.S. Senator Arlen Specter. She's not free at this time. She is amnesic of most of the events, and she's anxiously awaiting the day that someone will be able to rescue her from her ongoing mind control existence.
What is her name, and where is she located now?
For her safety, I will not say her name or her location, but I will say that she has flashes of memory at times. And when I was talking with her recently, she said that...
You met with her in person?
Yes, I've seen her since. She knows that the book Transformation of America has been written, and she finds tremendous hope for her and her children and for other mind control victims, that someone is actually vocalizing the atrocities that are going on in this country.
To come back to the topic of Mulroney, so you was brought to the entrance of the White House, especially which entrance he was using for?
Service entrance. And to exemplify how the mind control slave's subconscious is so literal, my escort, Secret Service escort, stopped outside the door and pointed out the sign that said service entrance on it to me and enunciated it quite differently so that I understood it to read, serve us in trance. And the service entrance was very often how I was brought into the White House. He took me inside and up to the room that was being used for a cocktail party. Well, actually, it's a series of rooms. It's all interconnected where you walk from one right on into
It was during the Reagan administration, right?
Yes.
President Reagan
was president at the time, and...
Mrs. Reagan was not there, or she was there?
Not that I saw. She wasn't... I never had any association with her, and didn't see her around at all. But,
so who brought you there? I mean, just Secret Service, but who was your mind control operator at the time?
At the time, my handler was Alex Houston. Alex Houston was the one who was part of the country music industry, which was the cover for our travels that brought me wherever I was ordered to go. U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd was my owner, and as my owner, Senator Byrd directed my activities. He's the one who told Alex Houston to have me in specific places at designated times. And on this occasion, it was Senator Byrd who ordered that Alex Houston bring me to the White House. And also, because I had other business in Washington that I would have to be tending and mind control programmed for at that particular time. So Alex Houston had brought me to Washington and left me off with the Secret Service, who escorted me into the White House and to the rooms, the series of rooms where this particular cocktail party for Brian Mulrooney was.
So there was, you spent all night in bed with him and having intercourse with him, or?
Not all night, just until he was sexually gratified, and then I left from there and was with Senator Byrd, as was so often the case.
What do you mean by you was with him after you slept with him as well?
Yes, very often there were a series of men that I would have to sleep with have sex with in one particular night. But as a sex slave, there was no personal interaction, there was no conversation, there was no keeping me around for any purposes. I was simply there for sexual gratification purposes. And that was the case on this night. As I was going through this cocktail party, George Bush and Madeleine Albright were also present. And George Bush signaled me to come over to he and Madeleine Albright and talk. And it was there that Madeleine Albright ordered that I would be brought to her OAS office the next day.
So she said that you mentioned in your book, I remember the page 167 even by heart, that George Bush told you about Margaret Albright. Who is she and something like that.
Well, yes, he made some jokes to the effect that she was the, quote, Reverend Mother of all sisters, which cryptically meant that she ordered mind control slaves such as myself around. And that particular cryptic language was indigenous to the Catholic Vatican, the Jesuit mind control aspect of my victimization. So the Order of the Rose and the Catholic influence that I was experiencing at that particular time put me into the Catholic Jesuit mode of operation that I had been previously programmed for and conditioned for, and was often used for carrying out particular Caribbean operations.
And now your second meeting with her was in that building that you was mentioning before. Can you describe the building and her office and how it looks like and how this event had happened?
Well, the OAS building is located in Washington, D.C., and Alex Houston dropped me off out front. I went through the front door, and there's like a hallway that goes all the way through the OAS building and right out to the back where there's a rock garden. Her office...
How the garden looks like? There's some elements you can describe?
The rock garden had a little walkway, like a sidewalk, where people who worked there, people who were brought in, could go outside. There were different rocks, some trees and shrubs there, and a lot of Caribbean art was around the woodwork. I noticed that there was some Haitian artwork in particular that I recognized from having been in Haiti on operations so many times.
So you was first probably, you went through the guard there and who told you where you're going, right? And first somebody asked you where you're going, or?
No, I just went straight in. I already knew where I was supposed to go, and I'm sure that the different indicators that I was wearing was a tip to many that I was part of the CIA operations anyway. I, too, had to wear the different roses, and particularly in my hair. But I had been given a little red rosy cross when I was first brought into the Order of the Rose.
Could you just keep this, what you was talking yesterday, and I just want to be curious if you can tell us on the camera that. You went to her room and she was sitting there, right? And she was
Yes, after
what's
we
happened
talked
there?
outside and I had received my orders, she brought me back into her office, which is located near the rock garden, and it's on the left as you go in. The office was really quite small, but it too had some of the Caribbean art on the walls. Some Haitian carvings were around the room. There was a file cabinet. Overall, it was a relatively small office because it was not her main office. But this OAS office was directly connected to the United Nations, and anytime I was around Madeleine Albright, the Catholic Jesuit aspect was accessed and used, and she accessed my sex programming at that time and made me perform oral sex on her before leaving.
So how long was this actually? So what she did was she just take her clothes off and order you to order oral sex on her?
Well, actually, she just removed her panties. She was wearing a dress at the time, a longer skirt, which was more suitable for summer. It was a summer type weather anyway, and she just removed her nylon panties and had me perform oral sex on her while she sat in her office chair. And
was she excited with that? Did she have orgasm?
Yeah.
You can think
Yeah.
of. How long you stayed there in her office?
As long as it took. I really don't know how long it was. Any time for something so disgusting is too long. But it was just until she was sexually gratified, and then I was just ordered to leave.
So what kind of order did she give you in that particular moment when she met with you?
Well, she just accessed the sex program part, the same part like Hillary Clinton would use, and that was done through the sister references, particularly a twin sister reference where the sex programming had actually already been instilled, and the removal of her panties and with her spreading her legs and giving me orders was really all it took.
So in other words, you was completely automatic. So you was just because of your mind control and your robotic behavior in the time.
Totally robotic, and I had no ability to do anything other than what I was instructed or what I had been previously trained to do. And she was well aware of the fact that I was programmed and trained. She was aware of the fact that I was used in pornography with Larry Flint's Hustler magazine.
Okay, you have some magazine where you can see the photographs of you on that magazine.
Those are available.
They're available on the Larry Flint's and Enterprise and Hustler magazine. Okay, what I would like to ask you this question that we were starting this programming, this particular segment was about your knowledge of other members of the Order of the Rose. That you can. Did you give any testimony to any organization like FBI or anything regarding that Order of the Rose?
No organization like that. As a matter of fact, there are certain factions, criminal factions of the government that are involved in this. There's certain factions of CIA and certain factions of FBI, much lesser on the FBI. This was very high up in government. This is government officials such as Mexican President Miguel de la Madrid, who was president during the Reagan administration, Salinas, who was vice president and later went on to be president of Mexico.
You met the person personally?
Yes.
Did you also perform your sexual...
With de la Madrid.
De la Madrid, not with Salinas.
Several times with de la Madrid, yes.
Where, in Mexico or in...
In Mexico.
In Mexico.
And other people involved were like Bill Clinton. In 1984, I had occasion to be at the CIA Near-Death Trauma Center compound in Lampe, Missouri, and Bill Clinton and George Bush were there together. Mm-hmm. To some people in this country, it seems odd that a Republican and a Democrat would be together, but in fact, their agendas were exactly the same. Their agendas didn't even have to do with the Democratic Republican parties, did not have to do with the best interests of the United States. Their interests were this new world order. They both had exactly the same goal and the same agenda. At that time, they were conversing to that effect, and Bush said that when the American people became disillusioned with the Republican Party, that Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, would be brought into the presidency to finish carrying out this new world order plan.
Other subject is when you was discussing, I'm recalling now the tape that you sent me to Europe, what I was showing to people that editors and some people from the various magazines that find big interest, but at the same time very big skepticism, because they don't have particular details in their topics. You was talking about this hunting field when Bush and Clinton were present. Can you tell me more particular where was happened, which plant you're talking about, and what you detailed, how you can detail that?
Well, this was this most dangerous game, as they referred to it, was a matter of human hunting. And when a mind-control slave such as myself was stripped of clothes and turned loose in the woods, I was then hunted by George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton, among others. But they were the main ones. I do not believe that it was necessary for them to have subjected me to this form of trauma. There were so many other traumas going on at the time. My mind was already prime conditioned for mind control program. So I really don't understand it, except for the fact that they found great pleasure in this form of human hunting. And they took it from particular military maneuvers. And
which base we're talking about when you was recalling the situation when Clinton was present and Mr. Bush? Which airspace?
There's a little place called Lampe, Missouri, that's just across the Arkansas line. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time, and his whole cocaine operation that was Mena, Arkansas was the main hub for, was bringing cocaine into this CIA compound. And this particular Swiss villa, as they called it, amphitheater, in Lampe, Missouri, was actually a CIA compound out in the woods, military fencing all around it, and mind control training center where there was high-tech equipment was in one building. There were offices in another. There were little Swiss-style villas or cabins where different officials in either the military, CIA, or politics would stay, and it would house them while they were there for either the cocaine activities, for the paramilitary operations that were going on. You know, there were black helicopters everywhere, total robotic guys that were being used in special forces.
Which special forces you're referring to? There was also another program on mind control by Delta Force,
yes.
Right? Can you describe, what is your knowledge? Do you have any knowledge of that, or you met these people, and can you describe me some more of this?
The Delta Force and the Navy SEALs are an elite part of the military that is mind controlled, like the mercenaries. I'm more familiar with the mercenaries that were being trained to carry out international operations that weren't necessarily sanctioned by Congress, and they were brought into other countries, such as South America, and to carry out their orders. When in a country like that, the airplanes would then come back with the drugs in them, and the drugs were then sold on the streets here in America, and really worldwide. The CIA's so-called war on drugs was nothing more than the CIA eliminating their competition and taking over the drug industry. So it was all inter-attached. It all interworked. At this particular compound in Lampe, Missouri, the paramilitary operations there were for more of the UN aspect. They didn't wear UN uniforms. They wore black uniforms, had black helicopters, and this was for implementing the New World Order and didn't really have anything to do with our actual military defense.
So there were some specific units which was probably out of control, maybe, but they was very well known to the President of the United States because he was taking part of that.
Oh, very well known, yes, and maybe not so well known even to some higher officials in the military because this was not a routine military. It was a routine military base. It was not routine military maneuvers. It was not known to the American public. Instead, this was secret operations and, like I said, for the purposes of bringing in the New World Order.
And also, I believe, acquiring a lot of money that was paid on the street of various cities, which was used for various operations.
Yes, it's enormous amounts of money that were brought in through the drug industry. If we had this this illegally gained money actually being used for our country, we wouldn't have a national debt here. There wouldn't be any problem at all. But instead, all this money was being used for the global effort. So the money was being funneled into that. Much of it, I'm aware, was being funneled through the Catholic, like the Catholic convents, Jesuit schools, and all the money a lot of times was being funneled right through there, through the Catholic Church for laundering purposes, and then actually put into the New World Order effort. Another one of these compounds was on Mount Shasta in California.
You were there too?
Yes, I was.
How many times you were there?
One time I was taken there.
Which year we're talking about? Which year? Can you recall the year?
December 1986. And that was when George Bush and Dick Cheney were at that particular compound and indulged in their perverse pleasure of most dangerous game.
Did you sleep with George Bush yourself?
No, never. Even though he was present when he had turned me loose in the woods, he also had turned my daughter, Kelly, loose. She was only 6 years old at the time. And later on that evening, when Kelly was brought in...
In California? You're talking about California?
When Kelly was brought in, she said that she had been caught, same as me, to quote her, in that so-called most dangerous game. That was to make her feel responsible for the sexual abuse that followed, and it was to make me feel responsible for it, because had we not been caught, then we wouldn't have had to have endured the sexual abuse that followed. George Bush sexually assaulted my daughter, and Dick Cheney sexually assaulted me.
So now, can you recall who brought you to this Californian based and